Welcome to Off Panel. Welcome to Off Panel. I'm David Harper, and today it's retail time with Big Bang Comics' John Hendrick. How was Star Wars Day, John?
Star Wars Day was pretty cool. We had snowtroopers and scout troopers and stormtroopers and troopers, and then those other Imperial officers whose names I don't really know, and a couple of Jedi and a Jawa. Oh, and Chewie.
You had a Jawa?
Yeah, it's someone's kid.
I love Jawas.
No, they're cool. The kid was rad. He really got into the role.
Did you start yelling, Udini?
No, but I did check to see if he stole stuff.
Like under his robes?
Yeah, totally. Jawas are thieves. Haven't you watched Star Wars?
I have. That's like their sole goal. They have that weird ship that they just jam other people's stuff into.
It's not even a ship, man. It's a sand crawler. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm on this podcast.
Okay, this is already off the rails. All right, so we're here to talk about all things retail and on the New York Comic Con weekend. So we'll be talking about New York Comic Con stuff, but I wanted to start with a question on the tip of everyone's tongues that follows you guys on Twitter. Why do you and everyone else at the Big Bang hate Marvel?
Oh my god, really?
I know it's not true. I just had to ask because it's hilarious. I think
I hate you. I absolutely adore Marvel comics. I love them. I adore them. You know what? I probably read more Marvel than like DC. In fact, I do. That's not a probably. I do. I read more Marvel. This is a thing. This is a thing that comes up repeatedly. Okay. We don't hate Marvel. And there's lots of people at Marvel who I desperately adore and respect and think are great. And they've always been great when we've reached out to them. No, we don't hate Marvel. Dave.
Well, I want to give a little backstory on that. If you don't follow Big Bang on Twitter, they do comic market tweets in which they just share their sales perspectives. That's it. They're not really saying anything besides how things are selling in their stores. And generally speaking, there are some people who, I don't know, have taken some of the stuff that you say out of context and used it against Marvel. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's fair. That's a problem.
Yeah, I know that you love Marvel. I love Marvel too. That's the thing is like I write a lot of not so happy things about Marvel these days, and it's not because I want to. It's just because some of their business stuff is not going so well, and some of the decisions are really weird. Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's first of all, it's 2017, and we know a lot of retailers.
Yeah.
We talk to a lot of retailers. And what happens because of that as well is that we probably have a more immediate and on the ground view than what you know that whole like, oh, this sold out and it's going to second printing. Well, you know what, it's sold out at the distributor level, and there's been that many back orders logged from stores that didn't order enough that they go to second printing, and it's a great press release and it's brilliant, but it's not real.
Right.
There's other stores. If you follow Gosh Comics, and I went for a beer with Andrew Salmon from Gosh when I was at Thought Bubble, and slagged him off about this because we like to slag each other off. And I was like, oh yeah, your tweets were, hey, this is sold out at Marvel, but it's still in stock at Gosh. It's not real. Sell-through numbers aren't there. So You know what? Legacy has probably sold out. Legacy is probably sold out, and it has at distributor level, probably. I don't know because I haven't checked because I haven't needed to reorder it. But it hasn't. So that's a thing. My beef with Marvel isn't down to their content. It isn't down to their creators. It isn't down to editorial.
Yeah.
It's and that's, it's a weird thing because I've got emails from people at Marvel that are so nice, but yet every second Monday, like we're like pointing out that this isn't working, that isn't working, and that isn't working. And the important thing about those market breakdowns that we do we always started off with saying this reflects the sales in our store. We're not speaking for the rest of the comic industry. We're not speaking for Gal at Midtown. We're not speaking for, Patrick at Challengers. We're not speaking for these people. Often, what we're saying is what's happening. But then there's other stores that I've talked to that are like, no, man, we're going all in on this Marvel thing. Customers can't wait, and that's their customers. But our customers here, when we talk about things, that's what we mean. We're talking about our sales. Mm-hmm. We only talk about our sales. I've spoken to creators who are like, that's a really important thing because it's the most immediate feedback we get. So, when we skip a week or two and then we do like a big bunch, the last one I did 3 weeks worth because we hadn't done it in a month because we just didn't have the time.
Right.
That's always on my mind. I feel kind of guilty.
Yeah. I mean, people expect it out of you guys now.
Yeah. And that's shit. Yeah, because, it's like, oh, I could go home and watch TV and make dinner and do this and do that. But no, I'm going to stay 3 hours in the store, correlate data, and I'm going to, because I do it from the store. Sometimes Bruno does it from home, but I can't work from home. So I do it in the store.
I think a lot of people don't realize, like, they don't contextualize the fact you guys are in Ireland. And so, like, when I'm sitting there drinking coffee and you guys are doing your market tweets and it's like 11 a.m. in Alaska, it's like a completely different experience. So some people don't associate that with you guys.
We had, no, sorry, we're not open. I'm in the store and someone's like, hey, are you open? We do it on a Monday night because Monday nights are kind of, like, all we're doing is gathering emails, gathering data, gathering this. So we pick Monday night, but Tuesdays are pretty hardcore here. So the more we do, the longer it takes, the more erect we are on a Tuesday morning, mm-hmm. which means delivery day. And delivery days here can be kind of, but beforehand I used to downplay it, but like we're a pretty big account. We move a lot of units. It takes a long time. We have a lot of pull list customers. We have a lot of mail order customers, and then you've got to close the store, take everything down off the shelves, put it all back up again, and make it all work. So market tweets became this. It was a cool thing that we did, and it was totally Bruno that ran with it and made it as good as it did. But then Bruno was like, "I'm really tired. Mm-hmm. You do this week." Then it's gone to every second week. But we're not going to stop doing it. But I know when Bruno's tired, because when I read the tweets he does, because where I might try and pick maybe 6 to 12 books a week, when if we're really tired, we're only going to pick 3 to 6 books a week, but talk about that big book a week. Mm-hmm. The longer it went on, the harder it got, and it is hard, but it is worthwhile as well.
I'm just throwing this out there. If you want like an Alaskan assistant, you could send it to me and I could do it. All you'd have to do is like send me like all of Sandman and that would be the entire charge. I would handle that for you. I could do that.
Did I not? Oh shit, I never sent you Sandman. I've got like Sandman 1 to 10 in a box in the office. I was going to send it to you for Christmas just to shut you up.
But no, seriously, I'd be willing to do that. But I do want to ask, I'm kind of curious. Do the market tweets kind of put you in this weird position? Because like, you have this contingent on the internets who are taking your information out of context and kind of like using it in nefarious means. And then beyond that, you have some people who, like, I know there are some creators who willfully try to ignore it because they don't want that to impact their brain. Like there's people who like have different responses to it and use it in different ways. And
we've only had a couple of negative responses from creators. And generally, there's one time I remember in particular. Because me and Bruno are very different people. So I can phrase things differently to Bruno. And Bruno, it was a snarky tweet. A creator got it. When I saw the tweet, I went, "Oh, that's a bit close to the bone." And then I saw that this creator followed us on Twitter, and this is at the time where you couldn't DM anyone unless you both followed them. And I was like waiting for it, and then an hour later, the DM came in, and I got it. It wasn't necessarily the right way to phrase how poorly that book performed. I didn't take any issue with what he said to us, because honestly, like that's the other thing. People spend months and years developing these comic books.
Mm-hmm.
To us, they are just a line of data.
Right.
That's awful when you think about it. So, most people absolutely brilliant. Love it. I was at Thought Bubble and the creator's trying to buy me beers, and I was like, "What are you doing, man?" And I mean, like, I was in the bar a couple of weeks ago, and what was his name? Richard Wilson the Fourth.
Oh, Robert Wilson the Fourth.
Robert Wilson the Fourth. Yeah,
awesome.
He came up to me. Yeah, I met him before at Comics Pro, but both of us kind of forgot that. And he came up to me. He's like, "Are you John Hendrick?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm Robert Wilson the Fourth." And I was like, "Oh, all right, cool, man. You did like Heartthrob." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I want to buy you a drink." And I was like, "Why?" But he didn't want to buy me a drink because he said nice things about his work or nice things about Heartthrob. It's because of what we do, and that's really cool.
He's a smart guy.
So, I remember from Comics Pro after we figured out that we met each other at Comics Pro. I met him with like Joshua Williamson and Sam Humphries and a few people like that. They had like a creator table, and actually that year at Comics Pro, and I think I spoke to you afterwards. That was like kind of the year where I was like, holy shit, these market tweets mean an awful lot to people.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, we'll keep doing them.
Well, no, and I'm just kind of curious how that impacts your relationship with them. Like, is there a part of you beyond just being tired that's kind of like, should we change how we do this?
We've looked at ways of doing that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've gone like, what do we do next? Because we don't like to stand still. But I think with the market tweets, I think it's very much a formula that's worked. We've had people try and kind of ape what we do.
Sure.
And generally they either don't stick it out because all of a sudden they realize how much work it is, or they do it badly.
Right.
And I am a massive, like, I will, Joe Field and Libby from Flying Colours came to Dublin yesterday. And Joe kind of weirdly became this weird like mentor to me by accident in a weird way, but also he's like a peer. So he kind of looks at us equally, and I kind of look up to him.
Wait, really quick, for listeners' background, Joe Field is the owner of Flying Color Comics and the person who founded Free Comic Book Day. Yeah.
And also was like the I don't know what his position was in Comics Pro. Like, we're not Comics Pro members because we don't need
He was the chairman, wasn't he?
I think it was chairman. I can't remember. I think Marco took over then. Marco's a really nice guy, but I can't remember.
I thought Patrick was that, or is Patrick just a board member?
Or is Marco the secretary? Who? Patrick Brower?
Yeah, Patrick Brower.
I had no idea. Patrick will tell us on Twitter after he listens to it.
Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, well, Patrick, you're rad. So like we went to dinner last night. We talked about all this sort of stuff, and it's kind of cool that everyone's at New York Comic Con, but Joe came to Dublin. Joe and Libby. But yeah, weirdly, he became this like weird kind of like mentor to me. But we had a conversation about some stuff that happened recently within the comics market, and he was like, "I will help anybody out, and I know that you will too, but we can't help stupid people, because stupid people and their own stupidity we can't help." Now, I'm paraphrasing there,
right.
But if and that's the thing as well, if you start something off that means an awful lot to people, see it through.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try and do your own thing and then go, this is too much work, that's a disservice. There's no point in doing your top 20 countdown of titles for a given week once, because you realize how hard it is, and never come back and do it. So, we've had stores, do this sort of stuff. And once we sat back and just said, let's see if this takes off and we don't have to do it anymore. But they never came back.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, me and Bruno do it.
Did you see the story about how BookScan is going to start using POS data from comic shops to start tracking sell-through?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's really interesting.
But it won't mean anything.
Why?
Because
they're not going to have comprehensive enough data?
No, because so many stores won't, like their numbers aren't, and So this is the thing. It's not reflective of the industry. Diamond UK numbers aren't taken into account in real numbers. I mean, like we don't have Comic Suite or Mobi or things like that. We all have to like get by on the amount of time that we spend on spreadsheets. I've had this conversation. I won't say it's an argument. It's not an argument yet. It will become an argument. With Chris Powell from Diamond US. I'm like, we need something because we spend, I would say Bruno loses 2 days a week just to spreadsheets because we have to manually input the data because they will not give us the system.
Wow.
And we don't know why. Not really. I mean, beforehand they had the excuse of licenses and, you know, all this sort of stuff, but they don't have that anymore. So, you know, I'm like, you know, I know Chris Powell. He's a really nice guy. But I've gone to Chris Powell and Tim Linigan at Diamond and being like, we need something, we need help. And we're like, we're not getting it. So like everything that we do by ourselves. And it's the same thing over there. Not every store is Comic Suite. Not every store like will feed into BookScan numbers. So it's not real. And that's the problem. It's not real. Yeah. Right? Until you can come to me and you can say that this is a comprehensive system. I mean, it's like why if people come to me and go, oh, are you scared of digital comics? I will be frightened of digital comics the minute Comixology release numbers.
Right.
They've never done that.
Or you'll be really not afraid of them if they release numbers.
No, I'm just not. And I've spoken to people at Comixology and I've asked them, I was like, how many people download Batman a month? They won't tell me.
No.
They're not going to tell me. You know, when you've got as well, like if Comixology was such a big bad threat to us, why are Marvel on the Madefire app? Right. Why have Marvel done Marvel Unlimited?
Well, and yet Marvel Unlimited is amazing, and I love it. And if they got rid of it, I'd be pissed.
But
and they're only thinking of me, clearly.
No, but that's what I'm saying. They haven't done these things. So you know, if someone turns around to me and says, "Do you know what? Like Batman in the direct market sold 90,000 copies last month," I'd be like, "Right," but it sold 210,000 copies on Comixology. Then I'm worried.
Yeah, that's true.
But honestly, I genuinely believe Batman sells, like, you know, I don't know. I could make it up. It could be any number. They could tell me that Batman sells 13,000 copies. They could tell me Batman sells 13. I don't know.
Right.
You don't know.
Yeah.
And for all this push and Amazon and this and that and the other, and we still don't know. And how long has Comixology been operating?
8 years. I want to say it started in 2009. It could have been 2008.
Okay, Netflix revealed their download numbers on shows.
Did they?
Yeah, well, they have. They turned around. I remember reading that like Defenders was the lowest watched Marvel TV thing out of all of them. You know, so there's numbers being taken. There's numbers being, you know, TV shows aren't my forte. I'll be honest with you.
Well, but I mean, the thing is like all these companies have the numbers. It's just a question as to whether or not they want to make them public, and that's the tricky thing about.
But why wouldn't? If Comixology is the future of the direct market of comic stores of comic books, why wouldn't they? Unless they're not good.
Because they don't need to. No, that's not true. I mean, look at BookScan. BookScan numbers are real and sometimes are amazing and sometimes aren't. But like you have to like subscribe to BookScan to pay for it to be able to see those numbers. So it's
okay. So if BookScan is doing this in comic stores, where are they getting their data from? Comic Suite? I don't know.
I don't know either. But either way,
exactly.
I mean, it is interesting though. I mean,
so if over 10% of the market isn't allowed Comic Suite, that's not reflective of sales.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it won't be reflective, but it'll be a snapshot that would be interesting. I mean, I think it would be interesting. I don't know if it'll be meaningful.
You know, I love data. You know, I do.
I do.
You know, I do. I love data, and I would, if they would give me a POS system, and they said, but all of your numbers are going to be fed to Nielsen, or all of your numbers are going to be fed to BookScan, like, you know, that's in the contract. I would be like, I will sign that contract any day of the week. But that's the thing, there's no real correlation. There's nothing. So, you know, I have huge problems with how this is represented. I think that the only people that really know the real sell-through of single-issue comic books are the store owners. And there's meant to be like 3,000 of us worldwide. Is that right? 2,000
like that.
In the States. Yeah. I think it's like 2,000 in the States and 1,000 worldwide. And I'm like, if it's 1,000 outside the States, how is Diamond UK only 10%? That doesn't make sense. The numbers don't make sense.
Yeah, it's really strange. I don't really know that breakdown. I mean, and does that include Japan in like all the stores that sell manga? I imagine so. I don't really know.
I don't think it does. I think that this is like direct market sales. So when you take the direct market and you take the direct market publishers that have an exclusive contract with Diamond, I think that's what that means. But you don't know, and I don't know.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, because no one in this industry can actually define anything other than it's sold out at Diamond.
Well, let's talk about some comics then. I want to actually ask, obviously, Marvel Legacy was the big book of the past few weeks. In terms of, interest, I mean, it was the way that Bruno handled the comics tweets this past week was pretty hilarious, because you could just kind of tell that everybody really just wanted to know what happened with Marvel Legacy, and he made us wait until the end, which was very smart of him. Marvel Legacy didn't really move for you guys. And I want to ask about the weird play.
That's not necessary.
It did. I mean, it was it like 55% on cover, or like the lenticular cover?
No. I think. Jesus, I can't remember. I know it was 55% on one of the covers. I think it was 55% on. Yeah, it was fit. No, hang on. It was fit. This is something I should know. I knew you were going to ask me this.
I think maybe it was 55% on the $3.99 cover, because weren't you charging $3.99 for the regular cover?
You were.
Yeah, so I imagine it was probably for that.
You would. You're right. Here's the thing about that fucking cover. Right. So and probably Bruno's comments were pretty heated because I handled the Marvel Legacy order. But there are things that I do, and when I do them, I pretty much know I'm going to lose money. But I do it because because I want to give it a shot. Now, what did we base the Marvel Legacy numbers on? We looked at Rebirth.
Right.
And beforehand, I spoke to David Gabriel about this in another context. That he's the head of sales at Marvel. Listeners, I'm sure you've never heard of him before. And I went to Diamond and I said, okay, we're going to do this on this, and we're going to do that on that. And they said, great. So I upped the order, because in the States, they had, like, if you order a certain amount, you get a 75% deep discount. We didn't get that.
Initially. Didn't you get it eventually?
No, we didn't. No, I'll explain this to you.
Okay.
Right. So we weren't getting that. So I went to Gabriel and I said, listen, if you get this, I will do this. And when I get that, once I do that, and what I meant was I will do this, I will order this many copies. And if you do this and I order this many copies, this is what I'm going to do with those copies. I said, I want to treat this the same way I treated Rebirth. And he responded to me, really nice and really cool. And he said, you have to understand that there's certain things that are out of my control. Now, that really annoyed me, because he's the head of sales. Literally, this is this guy's job. Okay? And I'm like, 10% of your market would like this deal. And he's like, no, some things are out of my control. My hands are tied. I said, okay, cool. No problem. I was polite. I didn't bother going again. So I was like, right, we're going to cut this close to the bone. But here's the thing, the way Diamond UK works. So say they needed to order, and I don't know the number. Say to get that deal from Diamond US, they needed to order 10,000 copies. They needed to wait until their initials were in to see how close they were. Because Diamond UK isn't necessarily Diamond proper. Diamond UK is just a very big sub-distributor. So say they got orders in of 8,000. Well, Diamond UK went, right, screw it, we're going to order the 10,000 copies we need. And bear in mind, I have no idea what the numbers are, right, that Diamond UK needed or whatever. So after the initials went in, then they offered us copies of Marvel Legacy after our initial order. Our initial orders were locked in at the full price with our discount, which is a lot lower than the States. Then they said, okay, you can order any subsequent copies you can order at this discount. So I said, okay, cool. So what I did was I doubled the order on the regular cover. Then I ordered the lenticular. And I said, what I'm going to do with the regular cover is I'm going to sell it at $3.99. Now, we were the only people in Ireland to do this. and it caused a lot of hassle amongst UK retailers because a lot of UK retailers don't read their emails. A lot of UK retailers were pissed off about it. A lot of UK, but I was like, no, look, we ordered X amount at, and I'll tell you exactly, I think we ordered like 125 at the regular price. And then what I did was I ordered another 125 no, I ordered 175 at the discounted price. I think. I don't have these numbers in front of me. But I ordered big on the lenticular because lenticulars, everyone loves lenticulars, lenticular cover,
Yeah.
And the lenticular cover came in and it was shit. Not only that, the regular cover, I would say 60% of our regular customers didn't even know that Marvel Legacy was happening. Whereas when we did Rebirth, everyone knew Rebirth was happening. We had a midnight opening. Not only that, we had 6 months returnability on all the titles that Rebirth fed into. We had great confidence from the publishers behind us to do this, to push this, So, like, if we wanted to order 1,000 copies of Batman, we could do it, and we did it risk-free as such. Okay, our money was tied up a little bit for a few months.
But it was returnable.
But it was returnable. Right, and so like when Rebirth happened, we were ordering like telephone numbers for DC. It was crazy, and we ordered it. But the sell through was fantastic, and Rebirth hit second, third, fourth print. I think we were up to fifth print at one stage. Rebirth is still on the shelf in the store in 2 places under DC Rebirth and beside Flash, because it was such a thing, and they still sell. We still sell copies of Rebirth. Because we ordered like, I don't know, in the end it was like something like over 1,000 copies. That didn't happen with this because Marvel. You read the Marvel Legacy 1 shot, right?
Yeah, I loved it.
It was rad.
It was
so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. We had a Celestial.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if Wolverine's return is a surprise to anyone. I'm spoiling it on you, but Wolverine came back really weirdly in a beer truck, but it was cool because it was Wolverine. And Franklin and Valeria, that got me excited. All this got me excited. And there was nothing to point anyone to that week or the next week, and there won't be because it's such a slow feed-in. We've been told already that some of the plot points in Marvel Legacy won't be addressed for like 6 months in some of the titles. But there was no Wolverine number 1. There was no Wolverine number 143 where it's Wolverine. There was or whatever number it is.
It'd be a lot.
That's the other thing. The numbers have killed me. Right? Explaining to kids that like no Venom 7 went to Venom
155.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
That's being, Avengers is gone. Like, and that Avengers book is like top class, right? That Avengers book is great.
Well, I want to ask really quick. So,
yeah,
you were saying the one thing that really surprised me about Bruno's tweets, because I'm not surprised it didn't move. Just based, I don't know Big Bangs.
I expected it. I expected it not to move that well, but I didn't expect it to move that badly.
Well, but here's the thing. It's like I feel like I know Big Bang's audience pretty well just from the market tweets. Like I can kind of predict what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Yeah.
But the thing that surprises me is the lack of awareness. Why were people so much more aware of Rebirth than they were of Legacy? I like, to me, that they were.
Well, that's something I've addressed with the people here, and I'm like, have we not done our jobs properly? But the fact of the matter is that if you've got like a pull list here and you only come into us once a month, I mean, we send out an email with. I don't know. Have you subscribed to that email? I don't know if you do.
No.
We send out an email every Friday with everything that's coming out the next week and all the events coming up, and we count down to the events. Like in 4 weeks this will happen, in 3 weeks, that sort of thing. I genuinely believe that people are jaded
about Marvel.
And people, so many people went, no, I'm not into it. No, I'm not getting it. No, you're okay. I've been burned. Because, and I can't necessarily blame them.
Right.
And also, like, we're not gonna turn around to people and go, you have to get this. This is absolutely amazing. Because if they read it and they don't like it, then that is a whole trust issue that's gone.
Right.
But
it impacts your relationship with your own customers.
Yeah, and bear in mind, man, like towards the end of the New 52, things were grim at DC, and then Rebirth came out, then this, and then that, and then the other. So, like, we treated it, and I'm absolutely 100% hand on heart. We treated this the exact same way, but They didn't. Rebirth was $2.99, and we had 6 months of returnability on all the DC titles. This thing was $5.99. We had to pay more for it. Customers had to pay more for it. Maybe not in our store, but in the other stores. And then, as well, like, if they really liked it, I'm like, yeah, okay, check back in 6 months when all these plot points start.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good.
No, I mean, I thought it was really smart that in the back they had you can find more about Thor in the story with Mangog in this, and you can do this.
There were so many things in that book.
But all I cared about was I want to read about a fucking Celestial. I want to read about Logan in a beer truck, and I want to read about Valeria and Franklin Richards. I mean, I the one thing I will say about the Marvel Legacy one shot that I think at least worked really well for me is it made me really want to read Marvel comics. And it was kind of frustrating that I couldn't follow some of those threads. And it was fascinating because, like, I feel like Rebirth was smart in that they very deliberately tied everything to the Rebirth special in a specific way.
But not only that, Rebirth had this, like, freaking amazing payoff at the end, which was Batman holding that Smiley badge.
Yeah.
Which made everyone kind of go, holy shit. Right?
I'm on record as not a big Rebirth fan, though.
No, hang on. I don't care. We're talking. Right?
Yeah.
That, for us, as comic store owners, to get people excited. I mean, that was like, literally, DC pulled out their secret weapon, and they did that. Right? I'm a part of, like, I mean, there's a Facebook group that my friend, Porgo Maloid, added me to. It's about Alan Moore, and they are all disgusted with everything that DC are doing at the moment because they all, you know,
I don't blame them.
No, well, I don't have that view.
Yeah.
The way I see it is that, like, whether you like it or not, the Watchmen are part of the DC universe. That book comes out under the DC imprint.
Sure.
If you know, if they can include Morpheus in a freaking metal comic book, they can put Dr. Manhattan borrowing Superman's pants.
Yeah.
I don't mind. You know, but we still always have Watchmen.
No, I know. It does. The only thing that kind of bothers me is it does seem like they're kind of unleashing a lot of. I mean, like, did you see the Tom Strong news that Tom Strong is going to be part of, like, the Terrifics or whatever? It does kind of read a little bit like, oh, in for a penny, in for a pound on Alan Moore, and, like, with the middle fingers to his face. I personally
don't think it's middle fingers as a face, and I think Alan Moore is a very unique case.
I know. It's just so adversarial. Like, I mean, like, in general, their relationship throughout history.
Okay, hang on. Okay, fine. The relationship throughout history, and that's adversarial. So, as far as I know, if you write any of the Endless or Dream or whatever, or Morpheus or Sandman, you run it by Neil Gaiman first, because Neil Gaiman has a great relationship with DC. Apparently, you know, that's what I've heard. But I also think that if you are this precious about that work, don't read the next. I understand people's gripes. I understand that Dave and Alan were meant to get the copyright back
right
on that property when it went out of print, because it was unheard of for things to stay in print, and it stayed in print. And you know what? It's 2017. Watchmen is, because I have this file open.
I think it's 29 years old, isn't it? Or 32.
Yeah, well, wait a second. No, I have this file open because Watchmen is our 23rd best-selling graphic novel so far in 2017.
That's amazing.
And that will go up the charts, because you know that every year, and this is why I have this file open. I have the year to date with graphic novel sales, because I thought you'd probably ask me about this later. So, you know, I'm looking at how many copies of Watchmen I've sold in 2017. And so far, if you break it down and we're in the 10th month, the start of the 10th month. Yeah, we sell like 10 copies of Watchmen a week still. Yeah. And that's like even before Christmas. And that, actually, no, I lied. We sell 16 copies of Watchmen a week if you break it down. And you divide it by 9, because it's only really the first week of October.
And it'll probably spike with Doomsday Clock, too. Maybe.
Definite.
Yeah.
Because there'll still be people that come in and go to have Watchmen.
Yeah.
We get them literally
Honestly, I'm not like mad about it. I don't have any like super issues with it. It is just I find it more amusing than anything. It's just like they really seem like they're kind of like leaning in that direction. I don't blame them. Personally, if they came out with top 10 tomorrow with like an amazing creative team, I would buy that because I love top 10. But it is just kind of funny that all this stuff is happening kind of in a 2-year window.
It kind of feels like to me the veil is being lifted.
Sure.
Where it's like, okay, we started. So if we're started, let's go all in. Mm-hmm. But if that sells books,
why not?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I want to get back to Marvel really quick. So,
of course you do.
I only actually have one more question about it. So you have, Legacy did okay for you guys. It wasn't like setting the world on fire. The first wave.
I would say Legacy is, in my mind, the biggest wasted opportunity. And it's not because of the work that was put in by the creative team. It's not because of Marvel itself. I do think that if they just had titles ready to roll to follow with, that had new creative teams, that,
had connective directions that from the one shot.
And I mean, like, you turned around to me and telling me that, like, oh, you hate Marvel, and I know that was tongue in cheek. But the reason why we took a stand against Marvel was because of the gated variants. Mm-hmm. I did the numbers for you. Because it was something that had been on my mind, and it was what I would have needed to have spent with Marvel to qualify for the lenticulars. Mm-hmm. And that was just shy of £15,000 sterling. Mm-hmm. So I would have needed to have spent an extra £15,000 before I'd be allowed to order all the lenticulars.
Yeah, and I don't blame you guys for not ordering that.
That's not a goer. And that was done rapidly before you phoned me. So it's probably like a bit lower because on some of them, I know that like, some were like 175%. So I took the average and multiplied it, because we spend a lot of money on Marvel. We spend a lot of money on DC. So, I'm sorry, no, I didn't mean an extra £15,000 altogether. It like, on certain things. If you take the high end of things, it would have been an extra £15,000. If you took that it was the lowest end of things, it would have been like an extra where's that? Like 11. So somewhere between 11 and £15,000 I would have been like spending, and I just wasn't going to do that just to get lenticulars that unfortunately now, based on my peers' reviews, didn't work.
Right. Well, I mean, so how is all of this, like, you have the first wave of Legacy books in the books, they're here. You have Marvel Legacy one shot. How does that impact your guys' like future handling and ordering? Like, I know Bruno was pretty transparent about it, but I mean, how do you feel about that? Is that going to change your approach going forward?
Yeah, it did. We had already discussed talking about working with other companies before this. And there's things that are really, really good that just haven't struck home here because maybe they haven't had a historical base, or maybe people weren't that familiar. We've always done very well with like Boom and Image, Oni, First Second, things like that. We've already done well with those. And again, when I was at Joe Field last night at dinner, we were talking about this, and we were saying like Valiant are like this great. What was the snicker for?
It's Valiant, like, because I know in your guys' market tweets, you're always like, these are good comics. I don't know why we have this glass ceiling that they can't break through.
They're great comics.
Yeah.
But I genuinely believe that, like, we've been pushing them, we've been trying them, and everyone at Valiant has been so supportive. Like, they send us care packages that are wonderful. But yeah, no, when it comes to Valiant, I do think that people... there's already shared superhero universes in Marvel and DC. I don't think people are necessarily interested in a third one here yet. There's things that we push, there's things that we like, there's things that we do. I think it's going to be a slow burner. Mm-hmm. But, like, we're going to keep working with them. And they're great guys at the company, great guys and girls. And it's the same with Boom. They reach out to us. They want to help us out. It's the same with Oni. Only send us the best stuff. The best I will say the company with the best promotional materials right now are DC and Oni.
Oni's awesome.
I mean, the stuff Oni sends out to retailers to make them take notice with books is stuff that you don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I remember before DC, when Rebirth launched, they sent us a store opening and close time sign. Yeah. And I put up this thing and I was like, DC, this is amazing. Thank you so much. And you DM'd me and you were like, are you being facetious? I was like, no.
That was before I realized open close signs were such a big deal to retailers.
Absolutely. Because, you know, information is key. Right. So when DC sent us out this thing, we use it as a mouse mat because over here everything is chip and pin, but in the States people still sign for their credit card purchases, like archaically medieval people. But we use it as a mouse mat. And we got a gigantic mouse mat, which is amazing because I never realized that I needed such a massive mouse mat on my counter until this came along. And it's a DC metal thing.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant because it's right there. It's at the counter and people ask about it.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple thing. And like open and close signs. So I would much rather get stuff like that than, you know, bundles of 200 postcards of Marvel books that we didn't ask for that they include in their budget for promotion. They don't work.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. And you know what? Crappy posters don't work.
You know what? I want to make a quick comment about Valiant, not promo related. You know what they need the most is they need a gateway drug. They need a book that can get people hooked. And honestly, I think it's the Valiant. That was an amazing series. I think that's like top 10 best event comics ever.
I think Secret Weapons is fantastic.
I haven't read it yet. I was going to read it in trade.
It's really good.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I mean, I interviewed Eric Heiser about it, and he had great perspective. And was it?
Look at you! Look at you dropping names. I interviewed this guy. I know more than you.
Did you know he was nominated for an Oscar? Did I mention that? Is Raoul Allen on art, right?
How many awards have you been nominated for that anyone knows about?
One. I was nominated for an Eisner Award. In Your Face.
No, you weren't. Multiversity was.
Whatever. I was part of it. Anyways, all right. I have one more quick question about Marvel, and it's: did you force Bruno to overorder on Iron Fist Legacy issues because they featured the Sabretooth?
No.
Oh, come on. Not at all?
100%. Because that would be number one, unprofessional. David?
Yeah.
And number two, as professional as I am...
You turned away again.
Okay, as professional as I am, I'm not necessarily the largest fan of the direction that they're taking that character at the moment. And, you know, it's like, you know, when that Weapon X book was launched, you know, I was, you know, when we would report that on the market tweets, 9 times out of 10, even though, like, you know, there's not 10 issues out, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was me reporting. I don't actually like that book. I think it could be a lot cooler than it is. But it did okay. And by okay, it's like it's mid-level Marvel sales here. Now, 2 years ago, mid-level Marvel sales, meant, you know, 2.5, 3 times what mid-level Marvel sales mean now.
Right.
And that's disappointing overall. And then they did that stupid Hulk Wolverine thing. What's that called? Weapon H.
Weapon H. And that's getting a series. Man. They're doing a series for it now.
Yeah, I know. But when I saw that, I was like, okay, we've officially run out of ideas. Right? It's like you know, it's like those terrible like sketches that you used to see where it's like, okay. What if we get Tom Cruise from Top Gun, but he fights aliens and everyone claps? That's what that is.
I'm pretty sure you just described the plot of Independence Day.
Shit, it's taken already. Yeah, pretty much. But there's no volleyball scene in Independence Day, and the volleyball, you know, with Goose.
It's
but no, it's like, yeah, so like that's hard to get excited about as a retailer. Yeah. That's hard to kind of, you know, but yet, you know, and we ordered that issue, and then we added like on big things like that, we'll always add like, you know, at least 10%, maybe 20% if we think it's going to be rad. If we think it's going to be rad. For the shelf, and you know that's sold out in store, and I'm like, people really wanted to see whatever it is called, Wolverine.
I think it's just called Weapon H.
It's just awful.
All
It's
right.
just called a bat.
Let's move off of Marvel. I want to talk about Big Bang
I
as a
just
whole.
realized Frank Thierry is probably going to listen to this and be like, "Fuck you." Well, you know what, Frank? I don't care.
I,
Go
I, I
on.
don't think he needs to listen to that, to listen to this podcast to feel like that. But I want to talk about how Big Bang is doing overall. I think
Yeah.
one of the things that is great about you guys, and like, some people might be like, oh, I don't know if that's great, is you guys are really you were quick to make adjustments. You were very conscientious about what's going on, clearly with the market tweets and everything like that. And I think that can protect yourself in a lot of ways from some of the market fluctuations. I know you can't always do that, but I know some shops haven't had great years. How has your year been?
Flat.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can describe it, but in a weird way. And I have the year-to-date figures in front of me, and I have 2016's figures up until the 7th of October in front of me too. So we are selling less comic books, single issues, definitely.
But I'm guessing you're up in trades though, because of the special covers you guys do.
Hang on. Unit sales, yes. We're up in sales. Dollars or euros were down, but profit were up on trades. So comic books we have sold. Actually, it's a weird one, right? Hang on a second. I'm just gonna pick up my pieces of paper because I'm like that. Right, action figures we are down 50%, which is fine with me.
Is that even a big thing for you guys?
No, not at all. In fact, if you took any 2 weeks of graphic novel sales and you took action figure sales from the 1st of January to now, any 2 weeks of graphic novel sales would beat that.
Wow.
Yeah, in fact, graphic novels, do you know what? I lied. Graphic novels, it's very flat. We've sold less units, but we've made more money, but only slightly. What else is there? Comic books, single issues. Single issues, there is a gap of, it's not much. It's only about 2,500 units. So it's not much, but 2,500 units broken down over 10 months or 9 months is like 250 comics a month less.
Right.
That we're selling. So we have noticed that with our pull list customers. We have a lot of pull list customers, like it's over 1,000. And then the mail orders and stuff. But I mean, like one guy, he completely revised his pull list yesterday. So when that happens, I take his old pull list and I compare his new pull list. And like this guy had 36 titles a month. Now he has 18.
Wow.
I get that and I understand that. And like, it's fine. He told us that's cool. But like, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people switching to trade, and that's probably our own fault as well, because we do that really, really well. We've expanded the trade section. We've got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bookcases in the store for trades. Because they sell really well, and we're really good at that. So if we're really good at that and they sell really well, so a lot of people go, I'm going to pick it up and trade. I'm going to pick it up and trade, and that was a key test this week as well. We went all in on White Knight, and like we still have first prints of all the metal stuff and the shiny covers and this, that, and the other. Whereas I think last year we probably wouldn't have had that at this stage, but we went all in on White Knight. And White Knight's selling great, but the amount of people are like, no, I'm going to wait for the trade. Oh. Like, okay, cool. That's cool. No, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a limited series, so it's like, it kind of lends itself to that to a degree.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the thing that I harp on about this on the market tweets, that when Marvel isn't doing well, or DC isn't doing well, then the indies aren't doing well. And by the indies, I mean like the Booms or the IDWs or anything below that. So if someone's got like 9 Marvel books on their pull list and they have a Goldie Vance and a Rat Queens and a Transformers, say, if they cancel their 9 Marvel books, and this is the trend we've seen, they cancel everything.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to keep... They're going to, I'm going to get it in trade. So single issue sales go down, when single issue sales go down, there's less chance of those series surviving. And I mean, there's a few examples of books that probably lose money in singles but make money in trade that I can think of. Some I know of that I'm probably not meant to advertise on a podcast.
Probably not.
No, but you know, there's things like that. So that's why I'm always like, we need a strong Marvel, we need a strong DC. We need people to want to come in and buy Batman, so they then go and buy Moonstruck. We
Giant
need
Days.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Giant Days is a phenomenal seller.
Because it's amazing.
In trade paperback. Massive. Like, oh man, I mean, and you see, we're not your average store. So like, you know, I know a lot of retailers, and I'm like, holy shit, man, I can't believe how many copies of the Giant Days hardcover we sold. And someone will go, I ordered one, and it's still here. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, sorry about that. You know, like, we're different. So it's a much more bookstore vibe that we do. In fact, I'm just going to check Giant Days now on the sales list, and yeah. All the Giant Days trades are in the top 150.
Wow.
Giant Days 1, is that the top one? Yeah, that's done really well.
Yeah,
Giant Days.
I read it in trade. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know this. I've switched heavily to trade. The only things that I'm really buying in single are image books that I've been reading for a while, or like ones that I'm just too weak to not buy. Or
image books.
What's that?
Image books are important, and image books are important to buy in single issue.
Yeah,
if you
and I have it in my pull list because you know like they need that cash flow to survive, and so like a lot of those books that I actually pull, and weirdly Squirrel Girl, that's like the only Marvel DC book that I actually have on my pull list that I keep it on there.
I have a theory about Squirrel Girl.
It's the best comic.
I think Squirrel Girl.
That's just a fact.
I think. In Alaska, I have a theory about Squirrel. I think Squirrel Girl is probably, in fact, definitely is Marvel's most consistently good comic book, month in, month out. And Squirrel Girl is something that we've had massive success here with.
Right.
And one of the greatest things, and I define success not just with sales, but Squirrel Girl. Let's have a look at the Squirrel Girl TPs. Yeah, all of them are in stock.
I imagine customer retention is important for you guys too. It's like if people keep it on their pulls, like that's huge.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah.
Squirrel Girl currently is just outside of the top 100, but it's all grouped very highly together. Yeah.
I want to tell you really quick about a retailer I met in Burien, Washington. I don't
even know where that is. That's not a real place.
It's a part of
Talk
Seattle.
About a retailer that you've met in Neverland.
It's from
Wait,
Narnia.
it's a part of where?
It was Narnia. It was run by a fawn. It was really crazy. But no, it was it's a small part, like it's a small town within Seattle, effectively. And
what's it called?
It's called Ancient Comics. And so I went there because when I was down in Seattle, my shop was shorted both Wildstorm #6 and Black Monday Murders #5. And so those are two of my favorite comics, and I've just never been able to get those comics. And I've been trying to track them down, so while I was down in Seattle, I figured I'd go to some shops. So I went to this place, and so they're having their best year ever this year. But here's the interesting thing about it. I don't remember. He said he switched back when Captain America was killed, so right after Civil War, to purely back issues and trade focus. Like that's all he does. All he does is trades, and like he does like bundled like back issues, and like so you can buy you can buy a chunk of 10 Paper Girls, the first 10 issues of Paper Girls for $30, and he sells it for that. Despite the fact you could buy both the trades for less than that, people are weird, whatever. But anyways, and he's doing really, really well, and it was busy when I was there, and I thought that was really fascinating. I thought it was fascinating that he was having his best year ever when a lot of people are kind of not so much. And he's been around since, he said he'd been open for 23 years, and he'd only adopted that platform about like 9 years ago or so. It was really interesting.
Okay. That's way too much work for me, so I would never do it. All that like keeping comics to like bundle together.
It's so weird.
Yeah, I just couldn't do that. No.
I just thought it was interesting because it was such
I do love the name. I do. I do love the name Ancient Comics. It's amazing. It makes me want to like go in there and just see like a giant wizard behind the counter. But no,
quite the opposite, actually.
yeah. Well, no, that's kind of cool. But I do think that here's the thing, right? Comic retailers, we fall into there isn't like, oh, how do I say this without insulting half the people? Right, I'm not that popular amongst lots of retailers, and I'm okay with that because I don't want to be. Because I think I've gone into this with you before, the shoe store thing.
No, I don't. Maybe
Have I never done this?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I asked a question amongst my peers once, and what I said was, I said, if you took all the comics out of your store, but left all of the fittings in there.
Oh no!
And then you became a shoe store. Would people buy shoes in your store? And like everyone said, no. And I said, why?
That's a really good question.
And they said, because like, you know, you can go to Foot Locker and the shoes look really nice. And I was like, then why don't the comics look really nice in your stores?
I was going to say, I think they're missing the point if that's the question they asked.
Yeah. Well, one or two people got the point and were really offended. But they understood what I was saying. And I'm not, look, here's the thing, right? We're in a fairly niche, unique business model, right? Mm-hmm. Which has been both excellent for comics and also detrimental to comics. So I asked this question and they're like, God, no, because I got a Foot Locker because it looks nicer. I'm like, well, why doesn't your store look nice? Mm-hmm. And everyone that said no, they didn't have that answer, because the answer really was their store was a shithole, right? And I hate that. I'm like, if you're going to spend, like, I mean, I work 6 days a week. I work in here all of the time, but I want this to look like, I hate that word comic shop. And I know it's 2 words, but I think it's 1 word in my brain. Because the minute anyone goes, oh, I'm in the comic shop, I'm like, oh, you know? But I have a store that sells comic books. Or a store that sells comics, or a store that sells graphic novels, or a store that sells fucking Star Wars toys. It doesn't matter, but it's a store. So it's got to have that whole vibe of the store. It can't have that vibe of a clubhouse. It can't have that vibe of a geek haven.
Yeah.
I hate shit too. I can't have that vibe. I want people to come in and go, you know what, I'm looking for this book, and I'll either ask the guy at the counter because he said hello to me when he walked in, or I'm just going to try and find it myself, and it's easy to find. That's what I want. I don't want this to be someone coming up and going, do you have The Walking Dead? And me going, well, of course we have The Walking Dead. We're a comic book store. Or, do you have The Walking Dead? Yeah, it's over there, under W. Can you not tell? You know, that sort of thing. I don't want. So I never wanted that. But that is what we are in. And we are. And this is why that is an unpopular question, and that has made me unpopular amongst many, many retailers. I don't think that... when you describe to me like Ancient Comics and they do that, I'm like, yeah, that's rad. That's cool. They're doing something different. I personally couldn't ever do that, because in my head, I'm like thinking about the amount of money that you have to outlay to go, well, I'm going to order 4 extra copies of every series to make 4 packs of all of these comics. And, you know, the whole back issue thing, we don't do. I personally, like, I would need to hire a whole other person. That's a whole other salary. That's a whole 600 square feet that I'd have to give to the store. Now, we are lucky that we do have space to spare in this store. We constantly improve. There are 2 areas of the store that I would like to make bigger, and I have the space to do that. But I will have the space to do that when the time is right. But I don't really want it to be for that.
Well,
I don't know.
I do think the interesting thing about that model is the fact that I think the reason why it succeeds is because so many people have moved away from back issues, and more or less they're like the only game in town. Like, they're doing something that nobody else is doing. So it is smart in that way. But I don't know. I mean, I've always kind of found it curious how few shops approach comics from like a real merchandising standpoint. It kind of seems like that's what you guys do, is like you want to make it look like a place that people want to actually shop, and you want to make it things easy to find, and you want to be supportive as retailers. You want to be able to help people find what they're trying to find. And
like a store.
Yeah. I mean, I
there
think
you go.
I think
a store.
Have you been to Austin Books and Comics? I feel like we talked about this before.
No. But my God, I love their staff. I was on. Oh my God! And if you listen to this, Laura, right? Laura Bishop. She's someone who, whether she realizes it or not, right? We follow each other on Twitter. I've met her in real life. There are things that I do that I put up on Twitter, and if she likes it or if she comments on it, then I know I'm doing the right thing, because she's smart in this business.
It's the best shop I've ever been to. It's amazing.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean,
Dave, just have you ever been to my store?
I've been to better ones that are in Texas, so I'm just kidding. I've not been there yet. You know I'll be there.
Exactly. So listen, what I want you to say is it's the best store that you've ever been to.
It's the best store I've ever been. I'm sorry. I figured that would be assumed. But yeah, it's the best store I've ever been to. I mean, I've been to a lot of great shops. Like, I love Floating World in Portland. I really like Bridge City Comics.
I've been there.
I like Floating World a lot. But I mean, the thing I really liked about Austin's Books and Comics was their staff was so helpful, and like everything was laid out so nicely, and they had like a bunch of artist editions up on the wall showcasing.
Every so often I'm like, hey Laura, do you want a job? If Laura would move here to Dublin,
yeah.
Oh my God, I would, like, literally straight away, you're going to work. You're going to work now. And I said this to her because it would make my life so much easier.
Yeah.
In that regard, that's really cool. In the sense that I'm very lucky that I know a lot of retailers around the world, because to get the right people in this business is extremely hard. We get so many people that come into us and go, I've always wanted to work in a comic book store, and they don't get hired by us.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they come into us and say that, they, oh, it's amazing, you'd sit around and read comics. Man, when you work in a comic book store that's as busy as us, the last thing in the world you do is get to read comics.
Mm-hmm.
It is the last thing, And I mean, sometimes reading comics, as much as I love them, and I fucking love them, is work.
Yeah, it's like the last thing you want to do after you leave a comic book shop.
Yeah, but it's work we do at home, you know, and we don't get to do that in here. I mean, okay, I'm going to be absolutely 100% honest with you. When Marvel Legacy came in, we all read it, right? Because I was like, this is important, we need to read it. When White Knight came in, the staff read it pretty much. The delivery stopped, they just read it. It took 20 minutes. That was cool. When there's things like that happen, we read them.
Well, it helps you talk it up too.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, I'm really lucky with the staff that I have here. I really am. I'm really lucky with JP. JP has got an eye for comics that I necessarily wouldn't be into, and I'm so he and he's clued into this whole like comic book network that I'm not, and he's clued into like a lot of creators that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So he will come to me and he will say, this is really good. And I mean, man, that guy is responsible for so many Lake of Fire sales in the store. Like, it's unbelievable. He's responsible for so much stuff. But one of the great things about, number one, JP is probably one of the nicest and best people I've ever met in my life. Customers really respond to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they like him, because he's so likable. Like, he's a good person. Like, he's a better person than me and Bruno combined.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. If anyone knows me and Bruno properly, that probably wouldn't be that hard. But I swear, JP's even better than that.
Mm-hmm.
But but JP is like so good at that aspect of the store that I don't have a clue about. Like, he pushes sales on stuff that I mightn't necessarily. You have to understand that when I order stuff in, like, I go by like creative team, the blurb and previews and the cover, right? But JP will be like, oh well, yeah, everyone like on Reddit loves this, and I'm like, dude, I've never even fucking been on Reddit. I don't know what Reddit is, but I'm okay with that because I got JP, and
exactly.
He's like, there's things, and I look around the shelves and I see things in here, like. There's all of our personalities are strewn all over this store by like what we have deep stock of, what we have face outs of, what we enjoy, what we like, and things like that. But like, man, that guy, he worked so hard on books like Lake of Fire.
Did you listen to my Nathan Fairbairn podcast?
I did. I listened to that. Where was I? I was in the UK, I listened to that on my way to the airport, and I laughed my ass off because Nathan Fairbairn was like, "Yeah," he's like, "Oh, just sold another 5 copies," and he's like, "Yeah, half the print runs going in our store," but it's true, and that hasn't stopped. We still order that thing like pretty much weekly.
Yeah.
You know, like all of us have our creators that we love. You know, like I fucking like. I have a huge amount of time for Remender. Have a massive amount of time for that guy. Huge amount of time for Clunan, Jason Latour, people like that, you know. Cameron Stewart, what a guy. Love that guy. Jason Aaron, you know. But also, like, there's people and creators that I love that people go, you know, not many people might know. Like, one of the fucking best creators that has ever come into comics with, like, and it's been a breath of fresh air, has been G. Willow Wilson. And I don't get fan struck often, but I almost bumped into G. Willow Wilson at the Eisners in San Diego, and all I wanted to do was like be like, "Hey, how's it going? My name's John. It's nice to meet you." And all I could do was, you know, that's all I could do.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, I really appreciate everything that but not only that she's done in that book, in the books that she does, everything that she's done for comics and everything that she's done for my store in particular. You know, there's very few people I get like that with. Like John Wagner, who's a name I'm sure that you're not that familiar with.
Grendel.
No, that's Matt Wagner.
Oh, shit. Oh, John Wagner is, 2000 AD. My bad. Mixed them up.
Yeah, there you go. And, like, you know, I was with Andrew Salmon from Gosh. Both of us had, like, John Wagner books in our bags, and we bumped into John Wagner at NYCC, which is a convention in Northampton, that our friend Jeff Chahal from Close Encounters with his brother Bub run. And, like, we were like, we have books. And he's like, "That's great. Books by you. That's brilliant. Will you sign them?" And he's like, "Yeah, cool, come on." And he was so cool and calm and collected, and all I was thinking was like, "Oh my God, I grew up reading your stuff." So there's very few people that make me go, "Holy shit, it's great to hang with you. It's great to." But, like, G. Willow Wilson was like one where, and I was so glad because at the Eisners I brought Rob Pontefract, he's the head buyer for Forbidden Planet UK. I brought him as my +1, and he's one of my best friends in this business. And I'm so glad that Rob didn't see me make that noise around G. Willow Wilson because he'd never let me forget it. But me and Andrew both at the same time at Nice when we met John Wagner were just idiots.
That's awesome.
Like, we looked. Yeah, but, like, that happens. That's cool. There's very few people left, you know, that I can say that. And the half of them that I probably would do that with are probably dead now.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, you know, if Wally Wood, like, appears, I'll make that noise. If, you know, Joe Kubert, people like that, Jack Kirby, yeah. Totally. But, yeah.
I do think your shop is really interesting in the sense that, like, it seems like, I mean, I know every shop could do this, but it seems like your guys' staff really can influence sales. And beyond that, your customers really do seem very creator-centric. It's like Scott Snyder will print money for you guys. It seems like Lemire does really well for you guys.
Yeah. But there's a common thread in both of those things.
They appeared in your store?
No.
Oh.
Well, well, they did, but they were nice.
Yeah, they're both. No, nice.
I'm serious about this. If you give time to people, they that look up to you, and if man, Scott and Greg, that's how I'm in the store. Scott and Greg, they worked fucking hard. They signed everything. They signed people's Converse. They signed a kid's wheelchair. They in the bar that night brought Sharpies. And straight up, people were still getting shit signed, and they were happy to be there that night. Which is something I've only ever seen a few times when people have really embraced that level of popularity. Jim Lee, I've seen that guy sign literally at like 3 a.m. when everyone's drunk and he's getting a jockey back off Jock, which is funny and things, and he'll still sign stuff. I've seen that. Scott and Greg, literally, they were like, "We are here for these people. These are our people. These have made us do this," and that's great.
Have you guys ever had Brian K. Vaughan there?
Actually, I was just with Brian K. Vaughan last weekend.
So we threw a party back when I was at Multiversity. We threw a party with Image at New York Comic Con, and Brian K. Vaughan was one of the main guests, and he came to the party, was being totally cool and everything like that. And I swear to God, this dude came in with a straight up short box filled with Brian K. Vaughan comics, just wanted to get autographs. Yeah. And we were like, no, you can't do that. And Brian K. Vaughan was just like, no, that's cool. He's like a fan, like, and he sat there and he signed a bunch of comics and talked to the guy, and I was like, holy shit, this guy is nice.
Brian Vaughan, I was at Top Bubble. I'd met him before once, but he was so frantically busy that I knew that he didn't take in what I said, and that was fine because I'm a retailer and they were fans, and that was a couple of years ago in Northampton. And then at Thought Bubble, I went to dinner with a couple of people. I went to dinner with I went to dinner with a few people, and afterwards we went to the bar. And one of my oh God, I hope he doesn't listen to this, but one of my best friends in this business is a guy called Mike Mulcher.
Oh yeah, 2000 AD.
He's a publicist at 2000 AD, but he's one of my best friends in this business. Like he's genuine, like not just comic friend, he's friend. Mm-hmm. God, I hope he doesn't listen to this. But so he was there, so I went over to him, and one of the things I do, Mulcher's so tall that when he sits down, he's the perfect height for me to rest my arm on. Mm-hmm. So I went over, and Vaughn was there, and he was like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Brian Vaughan." But I always carry business cards now because instead of me going, "Oh, my name's John," I just go, "Oh, here, this is who I am." And the guy turned around to me and he just went, "Thank you." And I went, "For what?" And he's like, "I see you on Twitter week in, week out, promote my books, doing this, doing that." And I was like, "Yeah, well, it's pretty easy. You know, Paper Girl Saga, Why the Last Man, Private Eye, these things sell for us." So like we had a good conversation, and I got his email address, and then we talked about stores. Mm-hmm. And that is one of my favorite things to talk about, because I do think we do a good thing compared to necessarily what, their experiences are. And Cameron Stewart was at the table, Becky Clynn was at the table, who else? There was loads of people at the table. Jamie Rich, who probably will never speak to me again.
Why?
Well, okay, so Jamie and Bruno and JP on Twitter have this thing about Backstreet Boys, and I'm not a Backstreet Boys. This in no way
surprises me. Jamie was once mad at me because I've never listened to Taylor Swift before.
Okay, well, Jamie would always quote Backstreet Boys stuff. So when he was like, "Oh, there's Big Bang Comics," he started saying Backstreet Boys stuff to me, and that's not me. I was just like, no. So I told him on Twitter that I hated him a couple of weeks ago. So I haven't seen him since.
Okay.
So but like we were at dinner, we were talking and stuff like that, and like Brian was talking. He was talking about Saga sales, and like I was like, "Oh, well, we've sold this many Saga, and we keep this much in stock all of the time." Mm-hmm. And he was like, "How can you do that, but other stores sell like one copy?"
Right.
I was like, "Because not every store is us," and that's the thing. I mean, whenever I'm in a different city, I go to the stores, or at least I try. I really try to. Mm-hmm. In Leeds, it was great to go to Thought Bubble, but the most important thing to do that night in Leeds for me was to go to the 15th anniversary of OK Comics. Mm-hmm. Because Jared Myland, I think, is one of the best retailers in the world. I think he's literally, Jared's the type of guy, like every so often I would love, if Jared turned around to me and said, "Oh, I'm thinking about emigrating to Ireland," hired. Mm-hmm. Now it's like that thing with Laura Bishop, hired. Mm-hmm. There's people that you just know that they are just the best there is at what they do. Like they're Wolverine. The Wolverines. Yeah, they're the Wolverines comics retail. And, Jared Mile is one of those guys. Now, Jared has his own store. He'd never leave to come work for me. But Jared's someone who I can phone and I can get advice from. And he phones and he gets advice from me. And, like, we sit and we talk. But he had his 15th anniversary of his store the weekend of Thought Bubble in Leeds. He did his own beer that night, and Sean Phillips designed the beer cans. Mm-hmm. He just sent me the print of all the beer cans, and I'm like, there's very few times that I get jealous of other stores, but that night that Sean Phillips designed beer cans for his 15th anniversary birthday, I was jealous.
Understandably.
Yeah, totally. I mean, how rad is that?
Yeah, that is really amazing. Like, I love the shops that actually have like a real identity. I'm gonna flip it on you though. We got before we go, I have a few more things I want to talk about. We have to talk about the bad look for retailers at the Marvel retailer event at New York Comic Con.
Yeah, we do.
For listeners that don't know, I'm not even going to say the words. Let's just say that some retailers said some pretty bad stuff about we don't even know how many retailers it was, but retailers were very upset about the direction Marvel's in this like Q&A event. It was one. Okay, it was
one retailer,
and was saying some pretty inappropriate things about some of their diversity that they've been doing with their characters and everything like that. How does that impact you? Like when you hear that news, what is your reaction?
It makes me sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I was sad, and I was sad. I mean, we obviously everyone that listens to this me they talk about certain things. My initial reaction was, "You motherfucker." Yeah. I know a friend of mine, Jeff Watkins from Cloud City in Syracuse. He was there, and he immediately posted he was just like, "Look, man, that guy doesn't speak for me." Mm-hmm. And you see that this is the thing. Things are weird overall at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about comics.
I know.
Right. So I read that and I was sad because straight away, comic stores don't need to give anyone a reason not to shop in them. They need to give people incentives to shop in them. They need, man, if you come into my store and you don't feel safe, that would be the saddest thing in the world. If you come into my store because if you identify as anything and you don't feel safe, you don't feel welcome, you don't feel the same as anyone else, that would be the saddest thing ever. And then I got this motherfucker, someone, and you know what? I've asked who it is, and no one has told me. And there's a couple of people who are like, well, I thought it was this guy, but I'm like, no, he was definitely still in the store. I'd love to know who it is, but I'm really glad I wasn't there because I do know that he got booed down and things like that. But that sort of stuff incenses me. Yeah.
The sad thing is like comic shops don't need another reason to have a bad reputation, because a lot of people have a lot of beef with comic shops. Despite the fact that there are plenty of shops like you guys, there's Fantastic Comics, there's Challengers, there's Third Eye, there's Floating World, there's so many good shops. But it's
there's so many.
But however, I do think comic shops are constantly living up to their reputation of like The Simpsons. People turn to The Simpsons so easily, despite the fact that I think that those guys are maybe few and far between these days. I don't know.
No, I don't think they're few and far between. I think they're the less vocal. I think they're the ones that aren't on Twitter.
Right.
I think they're the ones that aren't on Twitter, and I think they're the ones that don't bother with social media because they haven't needed to in such a long time because
they have their entrenched audience.
Exactly. Yeah, totally, 100%. I think that those guys are all there, and I think they're still there. And I do think that this is going to kill. I think that they're based on what I know, I think they're probably like 50% of what we do. Yeah, I do. I'd say about half the stores are just that sort of like traditional thing, that traditional overall. And I would say that the people like me, it's cool. We've got how many Twitter followers do we have? We've got nearly 13,000 Twitter followers. How many of those are from Ireland? I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never checked, and I ain't checking through 13,000 Twitter accounts to check who's from Ireland.
I would say not many. I wouldn't say that. Certainly, the majority is not.
Yeah, I would say the majority is international, right? But I would also say that the person who said that to the Marvel people, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm really glad I wasn't there. I spoke to someone who was there, and I said, "Was it really that bad?" And he turned around and he said, "Mate, I didn't even stick around because so many retailers doorstep David Gabriel." Now, if retailers can't behave in a professional manner in a professional setting, then they should fuck off.
Right.
But if they're I read the words. Yeah. It's depressing, isn't it? But the good thing is, that can't last forever, and that's going to go away.
Right. They are kind of the dinosaurs of the industry to a degree.
Yeah, totally. 100%. You know what? But there's so many great retailers from that era. I mean, do you know Joe Ferrer?
Wait, no, from where?
Oh crap! What's the name of his store? He's like he puts together the Eisner Awards and things like that. Joe,
Mm-mm.
man, what a sweet, amazing retailer. Like, and he's got his shit together, and he's cool, and he's brilliant. And I mean, I remember when we lost the Eisner, he came over to me and he gave me my runner-up thing, and he just turned around and he goes, "You make sure that you enter again."
Yeah.
And I went, no, I will. I said, we will, you know, like, I know next year we'll try harder and I'll talk to Bruno and I'll do this and I'll that and do the other. And he's like, no. Enter every year.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, comics need you. Comics need people like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know, now, in all honesty, I felt really bad because we didn't enter it last year, but, because it's a lot of work. But, you know, that you get like guys like that. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is the best industry in the world. And then you read reports on Newsarama, and then me and you talk about them, and I'm like, and then I read like what Jeff Watkins said, and like I have a lot of time for Jeff Watkins. He's a sweet guy,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, was it that bad? And it's like, oh man, because you know what? As soon as those stories went live, everyone commented underneath it. This is why comic shops need to die. You know, it gives people a reason. And it's hard to argue with that reason.
Sure.
If that was my local retailer, I'd be like, fuck you, man. I'd be like, you know what? Fuck you. I got once in my entire career, by an American, I got called a paddy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that. And I remember at the time, it didn't really bother me. But as the night went on, it bothered me. So, like, I punched him in the face at the end of the night. And everyone went, why the fuck did you punch that guy? I was like, he called me a paddy. Because to me, it wasn't a big deal. But as I went on, I was like, actually, you know what? He's calling me a paddy. What's he calling other people?
Yeah, no doubt.
And exactly. And you know what? If someone's going to go and they're going to doorstep Marvel Editorial and Dave Gabriel doesn't deserve that. Jesus Christ. If you think Dave Gabriel doesn't want diversity, you don't know Dave Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
If you think Dave Gabriel's not professional, you don't know Dave Gabriel. Dave Gabriel works for a multi-billion-dollar company, and he probably doesn't have that much to work with.
Mm-hmm.
He probably doesn't have that much staff, and he probably doesn't have this, and he has to keep people like me happy. Everyone thinks, this is the thing, and I said this to you before, every retailer thinks they know what the comic book industry should do next. That is bullshit, because the comic book industry thrives on not giving the full picture to everybody. We don't have BookScan properly. We don't have Nielsen properly. Over here, we don't have Comic Suite. You know, we read press releases the exact same time you do to say something sold out, and I'm looking at 200 copies on my shelf going, that didn't sell out.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, you know, comics is weird.
Yeah, well, this is the last question I want to talk about it because it's
no. Can I just say something?
Sure.
Can I just say something? I will say, whoever that retailer is, he does not speak for every retailer I know, because every retailer I know is a friend, and I wouldn't be friends with somebody like that.
Well, and I think the underrated part about that room that people kind of ignoring, because you see the headline and it's horrible, and understandably you'd be annoyed. But at the same time, like in the article, they talk about how the other retailers were booing that person. That's important.
Yeah, it is. That was kind of skipped over a little bit, and I understand that, because at the time, if you're in that room, that wasn't the story.
Right.
The story was some dude went absolutely apeshit because Thor's a woman, Spider-Man's black. Oh yeah, Iceman's gay. Here's the thing. How do people not know that? When I grew up, yeah, like, I mean, that road trip him and Rogue went on, I mean, I read that and I was like, oh, I reckon Iceman's gay. I picked up on that. And then it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, what was it? Freaking females, blacks, and homos. Well, you know what? If you turn around and if you say that to me in my presence and you go, comics used to be good. You know what? It's that whole fucking shit that we put up with every morning on Twitter when I block everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's that crap. It's that crap. And it's just, there's no need for it. And it's that real thing where I don't know how many, say there was like 200 retailers in the room.
Mm-hmm.
The story isn't that 200 retailers came into the room and Marvel made concessions to retailers based on what we have said to them on our not so secret Facebook group that everyone says, that everyone knows about.
Right.
Like it was in the story. Brever was like, I'll join the Facebook group, which we were told, do not tell anybody about this.
Right.
And it's like, oh, all of a sudden everyone knows this.
Because it's immediately in the story.
Yeah, the story is that some asshole stood up, said this, and then that put the conversation together, whether that put the question together that you saw on Twitter last night, that I saw on Twitter last night.
That we're going to talk about here in a second.
Yeah, exactly. Go for it.
No, I mean, so John shared this tweet that somebody posted, and it's an interesting question. Do you think that the direct market is killing the print industry? And John and I may have differing perspectives on this. I find it fascinating. What was your take?
No.
Then we don't have a different perspective. The print comic industry, I guess I should have said. Print comic industry.
Okay. I am 36 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that comic book stores will be dead within my lifetime.
Right.
Because I think that we are a totally different thing to visual and audio media. I think that when you really enjoy a book, or whether you really enjoy a comic, and there's no difference between the two, it's a tactile thing, and you want it on your bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where print comics are going in the next 20 years. That I can't tell you. Like single issues.
Right.
And by the print comics, I mean that. I think the direct market has probably carried the comic book industry through harder times than they'd let on.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that, and you know what, you should really get Joe Field on, because he's got like the history.
I've been meaning to. I actually was planning on having him for Free Comic Book Day, or like, you know, as like a kind of build up to Free Comic Book Day last year. But I will.
Well, like he can turn around to you and he go, oh well, that was when such and such bought Capital, and then there was Titan, and then there was this, and then there was that. Like he's been there for it all, so he's an interesting guy. But here's the thing. I don't think that the direct market is as important to the success of a title as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's okay, because you have to understand that it's okay for a customer to find their first comic book in a Borders or a Barnes & Noble.
I was going to say Borders doesn't exist anymore. Bad example.
Yeah. Okay, well, Barnes & Noble, it's okay if they go in and they buy Squirrel Girl Volume 1 in Barnes & Noble.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's fine. Or if they buy Sandman Volume 1 in Barnes & Noble. And this is the thing, all of those stores, they're just feeder stores. They're just feeder stores. Unless you're in the know, and unless you're on Twitter, unless you're this, unless you're that. Yeah, okay, you'll buy this shit off Amazon, or you'll buy this shit off Book Depository, you'll buy this shit off all the people that don't pay taxes and screw everyone. Or you'll go to a comic book store to get the next one.
Right.
And they're feeder stores. And we have to stop being threatened by other industries. So if someone buys Sandman Volume 1 in... Wait, which one went out of business?
Borders went out of business. Barnes & Noble still.
Okay, so if someone buys Sandman Volume 1 in Barnes & Noble, but they buy Sandman Volume 2 and 3 in your store, that's a win.
Yeah.
But it's your responsibility as a comic book store owner to turn around and go, oh, hey, you're buying Sandman Volume 2 and 3. That's cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed that when I read it, like I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go, oh, hey, if they turn around and if they have a good time with you and you say, thanks very much, see you later, bye-bye, that's great, they'll come back. If they turn around and go, what else would you recommend? It's your responsibility to go, so what else do you like? And when people, you know, this is the thing, and I talked about this the last time I was at your podcast.
Yeah, and you totally nailed a recommendation for me.
Yeah, but like, you know, what movies do you like? What music do you like? What books do you like? What fucking genres do you like? Find out everything that you can in the least invasive way.
Mm-hmm.
Take your shot.
Yeah. And
9 times out of 10, that shot is going to be correct. It's very rare that someone's come back to me and went, I fucking hated that. Yeah. But
well, I've told you before that, like, when I went with my wife for the first time to a comic shop, she was like, how do you know what to get? I mean, that's a huge problem. And it's like, if you can help aid people through that experience, then next thing you know, they're coming in themselves and trying to find something for themselves, or you can help them again. They come back because they enjoyed what you recommended.
If you walk into this comic book store and you look at our shelves, it's so overwhelming. But luckily, like, we've got a really good crew, and it's our job to turn around and help you. And I mean, what's even worse is, I mean, we do so many exclusive covers on trade paperbacks now with Image that, like, people, if they get sent a photo, such and such would like this, or you'd like this, it's got a different cover.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's our job to identify those things. So that's just reading people. But you're never going to learn that other than life. But the you know, in terms of learning what people like and in terms of like what you can do, I mean, there's a huge amount of trust given. I mean, I would trust JP, I would trust Bruno with that completely. We've got a new guy on board, Kieran, and he's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
His background is customer service in video games,
mm-hmm.
right? Video game stores. He knows nothing. Well, I'm not going to say nothing. He doesn't know that much about comics. And it's been amazing to see him interact with customers about the books that he's excited about because they're totally different to what we're excited about. Sales of Kingdom Come have gone rapidly up in the last couple of weeks because that's his favorite comic.
It's a good comic. It's a great comic.
It's a great comic, you know? And he's like, I love Kingdom Come. But that's a thing that if someone turns around to me, I might necessarily recommend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my favorite Superman story is Secret Identity. His is Kingdom Come. They're both brilliant stories. But the way I start off pitching Secret Identity is it's a Superman story, but it's not a Superman story. The way he pitches Kingdom Come is it's the greatest Superman story of all time, and he blows shit up. You know, like you know that's cool. And it's like even different things. It's weird. I haven't gone into this too much online. I tried to one night, but I got sidetracked. DC do Injustice 2 comics as digital first.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. We have only ever had one person come into the store because they read Injustice first digitally. But we have had a lot of people buy Injustice, then read it digitally, and then come back into the store because it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
They want the hard copy.
Yeah.
And Injustice, that's been a huge seller for us. But I got to say, and I hope you listen to this, Tom Taylor's writing with that Blue Beetle Booster Gold thing. I don't know if you read it. Did you read it?
I've never read any of Injustice.
Okay, there's one issue of Injustice, and it was possibly one of the best Blue Beetle and Booster Gold stories. It made me cry on the train.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Blue Beetle.
For like 0.0004 seconds. And then like I got my shit together.
So it was just like a single tier? Just a single tier that came down?
Even it was like a quarter of a single tier.
Whoa, that's not much of a tier.
Out of my third eye.
Wait. I want to go back to the question, the question that was posited on Twitter, because I want to share my take. The reason why I think that the direct market is not killing print comics is because the ecosystem of comics is a lot more complex than just the direct market anymore. And it's like, I mean, you have bookstores. You talked about that. You have Amazon. You have Kickstarter. You have digital. You have all these different places. And I think the thing is like maybe in the future the direct market, like you said, is, or even currently, is not as important as it once was. I mean, ICV2 and Comicron did the study where it shows that like the book market, I believe, is actually slightly larger than the direct market now. I could be mistaken. It might be actually no. I think it's just graphic novels are bigger. But
no, I think. Okay, right. You've got to take that, I think, with a little bit of a pinch of salt. I think by 2020. That's their projection. I
haven't seen any projections, but
I have.
Oh, okay. Well, I do just want to say that I think that the direct market can't kill comics. I think that like comics may evolve.
Dave, if you have a comic book store and you only order through Diamond, you're doing a disservice to your customers.
Yeah. Because
there's so many good books out there that Diamond don't carry, and some of the ones that they do. And they carry for initial orders only. It's crazy. But, I mean, a great success story we've had was Emma Vicelli and Malin Ryden's Breaks. They did, like, an initial issue. Everything was digital. And now the graphic novels come out. And, like, we were like, yeah, we'll stock the graphic novel. Diamond don't carry it, but we do. Mm-hmm. You know? There's a few things like that. Like, we've had... One of the things that has been really, really interesting, and I was really terrified about putting this together because I was afraid I would be super insensitive in a weird way, was we have a LGBTQ section now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even that. Do you know what? That's a disservice. It's probably like a sex positive section, mm-hmm. you know, because it's in there that, you know. But there are books in there that Diamond don't carry.
Right.
But sell really well for us. So like we reorder, and if we didn't have, we've got a biography section, we've got a real life stories we've got a European comic section, we've got a 2000 AD section that we would never have normally done. Everything would have always been alphabetized. But we opened up these sections on purpose because there's a demand for these titles. And because they're all grouped together, they sell well because the customers that want that stuff are there. Yeah? And it's okay. Yeah, we can order Love is Love through Diamond. But, like, you know, there's other stuff that we can't order through Diamond, like breaks. With the 2000 AD stuff, there's stuff that we can order initially through Diamond, or the stuff that isn't really kept in print, but we can order through other people. But if you're only ordering through Diamond, as in the direct market, you're doing a disservice to all the customers out there that might like that thing. And it's not that hard just to stock one copy of something. But that one copy of something might be the difference in creating a lifelong customer, or keeping someone's interest in comic books going, or that 5-star review on Facebook, or whatever, you know? And the direct market isn't going to kill comics. We are not doing a disservice to comics. I think that it's too much of a bigger question. We're not gonna, I don't want to do this without saying, like, you know, the buyers of Diamond are shit, because they're not. But what I'm trying to get at is, I think comics are bigger than they've ever been, and by bigger than they've ever been, I mean more widely accepted, and also topics.
I think everything is sprawling more than ever, both in the way it's delivered and the subjects and who's creating them and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I think that just means that, you know, direct market's not going to kill print comics, because eventually, like, it is more than just the direct market right now, and I don't know.
The direct market carried single issues on certain titles that became massive sellers in bookstores, and they would never have been there ever.
Right.
I do think that we're not as important to publishers as we used to be, but you don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, and all of a sudden we might be again, and that's happened before.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you know your history, but I just don't think that we're responsible. Like, can we talk about that tweet in particular that we were talking about? I don't know. I'm not familiar with the publisher that well.
Wait, which tweet were you talking about?
Iron Spike Publishing.
Oh, I didn't see the tweet. What was it?
Oh, okay. Son of Baldwin said, question for geeks, which again, I don't like. Do you think the direct market is killing the print comic book industry? That's what we commented on. Now, she quote tweeted that. Publisher here. I had an Eisner-nominated Harvey and Lambda winning book last year. Diamond turned it down for distribution.
Yeah, that's
Fuck
insane.
The direct market. They also turned down an educational comic that's now sold 16 to 17,000 copies without them. Now, if a comic book sold 16 to 17,000 copies without Diamond, more than likely it would have sold, you know, a good bit without them. But here's the thing, Diamond get it wrong too.
Yeah.
Now, I think, you know, that question that we were talking about, and I responded to her, and said, you know what, like, just because Diamond didn't carry it doesn't mean that the direct market didn't carry it. But I do understand your frustration, and I absolutely understand the frustration of any creator, publisher, or whatever, that, like, does something and has the goal of getting into the direct market. It doesn't happen, and then, you know, that happens. Absolutely. But the other thing is, like, Diamond do get it wrong. You know, Diamond, you know, have committees. Diamond have this, Diamond have that, Diamond have the other. You know, I'm on committees. I'm not saying I'm on committees for Diamond. I can't talk about who I am on committees for, because there's you know, confidentiality agreements. But, like, you go with your thing. But I do not think that direct market is going to kill print comics. I do think, however, that the direct market is in a state of flux. In every capacity, whether it's from public. I mean, I in preparation for this, I listened to the Brian Hibbs podcast that you did.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You turned around, you asked Brian a real simple question. You were like, what do you think that Marvel should do? And Brian went, well, I don't want to call for anyone to be fired.
Right.
Which basically means I think people should be fired. No, I don't think so. I think that, and I think that we're starting to see this. I think that, do you know what the real difference between Marvel and DC? Right. DC let us order whatever we want 99% of the time.
Oh, you mean like open order?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marvel let us order what we want 50% of the time if we jump through 100% of the hoops. Because even when we jump through 100% of the hoops, we still can't reach. We just can't. There's fuck all stores out there that can do 5,000 copies or something. And I think last night Marvel came to us and they said, you know what? Okay, there's no more jumping through hoops on these covers, and there's no more of this. The Art Germ, Phoenix, what's the series name? Phoenix Uprising?
Jean Grey,
Phoenix.
Phoenix Resurrection? I want to see Resurrection.
Yeah, whatever. I actually copyrighted the Resurrection with the X, so it better not be that. That's a joke. That's a Twitter joke. But yeah, the Art Germ cover was 1 in 100 on that, whereas Supergirl Art Germ covers are order all you want. We sell a load of Supergirl art. Okay, not a lot. I think like 30 copies.
Right.
Whereas beforehand on the B cover of Supergirl, we were selling like 10. But we're selling like 3 times the B covers now on Supergirl. And we were like, Dave, that's a really bad idea. And Dave Gabriel was like, oh, well, these are, you need to order 100 to get one. And we're like, well, then we want to order it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, you know what? This is open to order. That excites retailers because Marvel is starting to listen.
Right.
And if Marvel is starting to listen to us, there's a reason why Marvel is starting to listen. It's not because of people like me on the Facebook group or Ryan Higgins or Patrick or people like that. It's not because of those people.
It's a lack of results.
It's the numbers are coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the numbers are coming in, and they are not Rebirth numbers.
All right, so the last thing I want to talk to you about is your current. You have some adversaries. I think that might be a fair statement out there on the internets who are kind of they're glomming onto some of the stuff Big Bang says and uses as ammunition against publishers, but they're also specifically going after you guys. And I don't know if making fun of you guys is a proper term. I mean, it's more than that. So what's going on with that, John?
I think that currently in comics that there is a rather small kind of vocal minority who are just straight up assholes. And I want them to know that they're straight up assholes. But what they do is so if I turn around to you and I say, Defenders didn't sell great, they immediately take this and they go, this is proof that Marvel's social, what is it? SJW?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warrior plateau or regime or whatever the fuck they call it. I don't know. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating for us because the last thing that we want to do is isolate any of the people that work in Marvel. But here's the thing. Obviously, we get these people. Every morning, I used to mute them, but now I block them, and I don't care. And if your username is remotely racist, or if it's remotely like, you know what, I am here to take a stand against Marvel's social justice warrior campaign to turn fucking Thor into a woman. Here's the thing. Good comics are great comics. But if you are that way inclined, you obviously don't actually take the message from the comics. It's really easy to understand the real message of the X-Men.
Right.
It's really easy to understand. Every superhero, when you break it down, is a social justice warrior. They're there trying to make the world a better place, right? So you've got all these people freaking out. And there's a couple in particular, and there's been a few YouTube videos about this, which I've only listened to one, and I couldn't stop laughing, and I had to share it with my friends. But then they told me, like, the more you share this, like, the more hits they get. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stop sharing this. But my favorite one in particular is a guy who he was going to boycott us for life. He was never going to shop with us. And this guy lived in, like, I don't know, somewhere in the States.
Alaska?
And it was somewhere like that, I think.
Like that?
Yeah.
His name was David Harper.
No, but he was like, hey, and listen, and you're like, I don't care because I'm in Dublin and you're in America, and like, I'm well traveled. I was in like Philly like 3 weeks ago, and I was like, right, okay. But here's the thing: if you are that way inclined, please do not take our sales data. Please do not take what we say as evidence that your misunderstanding of how the real world works and like, there's no context for this. We are talking about a store in Ireland. We are not talking about the content of Marvel Comics. We're not talking about the wonderful people that work in Marvel Comics. And like, I do know for a fact that there are people that work in comics. I just did a job for a publisher recently, and it was a tiny job. I did nothing, but I just did it to connect some people. And they're like, yeah, cool, I'll do this. And the artist came back to me, and after the deadline, they said, look, I'm so sorry, but I couldn't do it because I was dealing with death threats from these people for New York Comic Con, and I had to organize my own personal security. And I'm like, number one, don't worry about us, we're fine. Number two, that is some next level fucked up bullshit, right? So all of these people, I don't want to name the main protagonist here because I don't want to send people their way.
Right.
But I will say this. This isn't what it was set up for. Stan Lee came out and did this big message about, understanding people and like accepting diversity and all this. And I think it is terrible that like a guy who's nearly 95 who did all this and probably did all this with the best of intentions to kind of go, well, you know what, in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, I'm not going to have to deal with this because everyone's going to be accepting. I think it's terrible that he has to come out and say this stuff. And maybe he doesn't have to, but he decided to. He comes out and he says all this stuff.
It is incredible that Marvel felt it was necessary to do that, like as if that was the only way to communicate to these people, because it is. Clearly nothing else is working.
I think it's absolutely awful that an entire department of Marvel Comics who works their asses off go out for a milkshake and then get this.
Yeah.
This thrown at them. And I think it's absolutely incredible that a store in Ireland that is probably, not the biggest store in the world, not that influential in terms of dining numbers, and not this and not that, is used and its words are taken out of context by assholes and racists and misogynists and harassers, and they come and they screen grab. They don't tag us anymore. They screen grab because they know when they tag us, we tell them where to go.
Right.
And they screen grab us and go, oh, there's Marvel Social Justice Warrior policy in effect. It's not selling. I would love any of these people to actually just turn around, identify themselves, and honestly give their argument, because they can't. Because their argument is like, what, men are better than women? Whites are better than blacks? What's their argument? Their argument is pointless.
Right.
They're pointless. I'm sorry, Dave. It's a real bone of contention.
No, I mean, I wrote about it yesterday on my Patreon. The fact of the matter is like, these are people who read comics but can't understand that they themselves are villains. It's a really insane thing. It's like they don't understand like the basis understanding. They don't have the basis understanding of what they're digesting. But the thing is I think largely these are people who, like yesterday I kind of got into it with one of them who was sassing you guys, or Dan Slaughter or somebody, and I was talking about Squirrel Girl, and I started explaining it, and I kind of got the impression that he's never read Squirrel Girl. He just uses the same like tactics that everybody does. And it's like I don't know. I mean, there's no real way to handle them properly, and there's no way to change their minds because their minds are set regardless of what you say.
Yeah, and I think as well, I mean, there's like 5 Irish people that have come to us about like, oh, I follow this YouTube channel who was talking about you guys. And straight away, if you come in and you say that to us, we're going to look at you and we're going to go, I
don't know about this guy.
Yeah. But some of the comments have been amazing. Some of the things, but I honestly used to just mute them, because I didn't want there to be a YouTube video about, I said this and I got blocked, because that was their style. But now I just blocked them. And honestly, Richard C. Meyer, if you're listening to this, you are a sad, sad man.
Yeah. I'd be amazed if he was listening to this. If he is, I will be absolutely shocked. But all right, John, I agree totally. But that is it. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. I hope I was exciting as Rick Remender was going to be. Thank you for putting that in your Patreon.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Off Panel with comic retailer John Hendrick. You can find him at his shop, Big Bang Comics, on Twitter at @thebigbang_, and on Facebook at /thebigbangIE. You can also find John on Twitter at JohnHendrick13. If you're a fan of the show, there's some big news. Off Panel now has a Patreon. If you like the show and want to support it, consider backing it on Patreon at patreon.com/offpanel. There are fun rewards and insider information you can get if you do. Big thanks to all my existing patrons, including Henning Allers, Adrian Diaz, Bobby Angus, Bjorn Basin, Darren Neely, John Hendrick, Steve Anderson, Michael Perlman, Bill Nall, Ian Maxfield, Cliff Chang, Benjamin Shipper, Colin McMahon, Chris Palmer, Maxwell Schmidt, Dan Lee, Scott McGovern, Nathan Fairbairn, Kat McKenzie, Lou Iovino, Christopher Carter, Nicholas Kesslake, Brian Dickerson, Greg Rucka, Ryan Mayle, Adam Highfill, Nicholas Gardner, Andrew Corrigan, Fiona Staples, Chris Morris, Johan Borander, Chris O'Halloran, Mark Abnett, Matt Battaglia, Mike Murphy, Michael Shirley, Tom Barnett, Jim DiMonacos, Norbert, Nick Lowe, James Kaplan, and Mission Comics and Art in San Francisco. You guys are all the best. Don't forget to like the show on Facebook at /sketch, that's SKTCHD. Follow it on Twitter at @sketchcomic, or follow me at @slicefriedgold. Want more from Off Panel? Subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher, and give the show a rating and review while you're at it. A quick thanks to the band Wolfpack, whose excellent track, Outro, from their album Volmilch, opens and closes the show now. Give them a listen as they're totally rad. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode.